Hi and welcome. Let's have a look at some restaurant and food vocabulary and dialogues. And so let's start with, we'll start with the dialogue. So you could say togo togi duge or togi duge. Togo is stomach. Oops. To is hunger or hunger. Are you hungering? I guess maybe is a direct translation. To ki oops. Duge. Togi duge. Are you hungry? So you'll notice there's no you in this sentence, but I guess you could say keran togo togi duge, but you can just say togi duge. Yes. Kala, food. Kala, I've seen it spelled kala just without a ka after, but I think that might just be a simplified version. Kala. I think usually it should be spelled like this. Kala. And as we've mentioned before, there are honorific forms of words and familiar forms of words. So you can think of it as the I form and the you form. So the you form is more polite. So this is the I form, kala. Ka is mouth, so and lak is hand. I guess food is sort of a logical connection, things that you put in your mouth for nutrition. So kala, if that helps you remember. Kala sa ru. Ru is one of the many forms of tu, like tu. Anyway, you can also use tu or ru. Dro. So kala sa ru dro or sa tu dro dro. So food, eat, to go. Let's go eat some food. So togi duge on kala saru dro. So are you hungry? Yes, let's go eat some food. I'll move down a bit more. Okay, so sa kang, oops, kang, sa kang, literally like a eating house, eat house. You saw the sa here, right? The sa for the verb to eat, sa kang, so eating house. Kang, you'll see, is kind of a very multi-purpose syllable. It can be used for house, edifice, the space inside a room. Kangmik is like a room within a house. So this kang syllable is very handy to know. Sakang. Drunkang is a guest house, for example. Sakang, shik. Shik is like the equivalent of the English So as opposed to one, is like one is chic and is chic. So you can use chic if you want to say a restaurant. Chic la. Okay, so shall we go to a restaurant? Sakang chic la droge or droga. Let's go, or droge is more the question form. You think of the ge as a question mark. And then on re, let's say. Oh yes, that is the case. Let that be the case, maybe. I always have trouble typing Sanskrit characters, and I'm going to choose Om restaurant, so I'm just going to copy it. I put it in from the Lexilogos Lexi Logos typing, as I mentioned in another video. So Om Sa Kang La Do. Let's go to Om restaurant. Sakang Shigla Doge Onre Om Sakang La Do. Let's go to Om restaurant. The next question. Here we'll scoot down a bit here. Kare, whoops. Kare, what? Chö gi yin be. Kare chö gi yin be. Chö, we had sa, which is the I form or the familiar form. And then chö is the you or polite form. Chö is one polite form anyway. Because chö is kind of useful. It can be used, I think of it in English as consume. So it can be used either for food or drinks in the polite form. So that's kind of handy to remember. So kare chögi imbe, what will you consume? What will you have? Usually in English we say that as what will you have? Although if you like, you can think of it as what will you consume, meaning either food or drink. Kare chögi imbe. Actually, oh, this is another note here. Technically, if you have the word kare, if you have a what, like a ka question in the phrase, you don't need the be. So depending on who you're listening to and how much they are sort of crisscrossing and not being terribly careful with their Tibetan grammar, it's actually more correct, or from what I've understood, to say kare chugiyin. And because the be is only used when you don't have a ka kind of question in the sentence. But one of the sources I was looking at has the be, so I think, use what you're comfortable with, but recognize that actually the more grammatically correct version is without the be in addition to a ka question. So just think of this as optional in many cases, but I think in general, people will understand you either way. 가르치기인 배 or 가르치기인 nga mo tuk nga gi yin. I will order a motuk. What's a motuk? Okay, so mok, if you have it twice, momok is the dumplings. Momok, if you've ever had Tibetan dumplings, you know they are very tasty. Tuk is short for tukpa. So very often in Tibetan, if you have two-syllable words, when you combine the two, you get rid of the second syllable for both, and it just becomes mo tuk. So instead of saying momo tukpa, you say mo tuk. It's an abbreviation. Nga mo tuk, ngak is to order, same as in English. Ngagiyin. So I will be ordering a motuk, a dumpling soup. Tukpa is soup, or I think we mentioned this in another video. Tukpa is like a soup or oatmeal, sort of a thick broth of some kind. In this case, with dumplings in it. So kare chugiyin, nga motuk ngagiyin. Okay, next. Oh, you could say takta re. Whoops, re. Oh, takta re. Oh, perfect. Oh, what a great idea. Tak means exactly. So, oh, takta re. Oh, great. So maybe now you've arrived at the restaurant. So you're talking to maybe the maitre d', or depending on the size of the place, it might be a small place. So either way, a polite way to address someone is Kong. Kong normally means like he or she, but in this context, it's like saying sir or ma'am. Kong, directly to a person. So Kong. So in English, you might be saying sir or ma'am. De, sa, a place to stay, a place to sit. De sa. Oops. Du ge. De sa du ge. Is there a place to sit? So Kong, sir, is there a place to sit? And as you can see here, the ge is being added to du ge because there is no ka question in this, just as a reminder about that. And so let's say the answer from the person welcoming you is la. Oops, I keep doing that. Du, la du. So as I was saying, I think in another video, this la is just a polite acknowledgement. La du, so yes, there is place to sit, meaning yar peb. Yar peb means come in. Literally, it means come up. Yar is upward, and peb is to go or to come. Honorific go or come. So yar peb just means come in. I guess in the sense, if you like, you can think of it as stepping up into a building, uh, if that helps you to remember the word. Yar peb. And then shuk, den, jak. Shukdenja is a polite way of saying have a seat. So de is the I form, de like a seat, and shuk is the honorific form, so the you form. Shuk is to sit or a seat. Den is it's actually literally like a carpet or a surface where, you know, often you see in a Tibetan home or a Tibetan restaurant, you have den. They are like carpets that cover the seats. Shuk den jak. Shuk den jak. Jak means to like to settle in. So literally what you're saying is settle onto your seat on the carpet. That's literally what you're saying, but in English we would just say have a seat. Shuk den jak. And then maybe you're not sure where you're supposed to sit. Maybe it's there's a lot of empty seats. So you can say kabar shugak. Where should we sit? Where should I sit? Where should we sit? Kabar shugak. That's one benefit of not adding pronouns, is you can use the same structure for myself, for us, for different contexts. So kabar shugak. Where should we sit? Where shall we sit? Where shall I sit? Next, tuk ke mi tuk. Again, just as a reminder, when you see an ao, an a prefix, often it causes a nasalization. So mi duk becomes min duk, min duk. So tu ke min duk. Ke, I think, oops, I doesn't need a jingle. Tu ke min duk. Tuk, okay, tuk is often a prefix for an honorific word. It's like it will make the word that follows honorific. In particular for words that are related to the mind or just abstract ideas, because tuk is like mind or heart, honorific. So you'll see that honorific markers often relate to whatever they're trying to modify. So an honorific word modifying a food word would relate to, you know, the eating, or I think like she, which is like food or face. Again, this kala idea, shela. So you're adding honorifics that match the word that they are modifying. So tu ke is here. I've seen it spelled this way. I suspect it's just a alternate spelling for kanyang, which means like anything or nothing. So kanyang, which is often said ke. So ke mindu, with or without the tu, ke mindu means like no problem, or it doesn't matter. So tu ke mindu, it doesn't matter where you sit. Kaba shuga, where shall we sit? Tu ke mindu, it doesn't matter. Or just ke mindu, if it's not honorific, if it's familiar. Ka bar shug ne jig ki re. So here, kabar, where, shug, sit again, ne, so if with the genitive, so wherever you sit, and then in this case, the a is sort of like a characteristic or ish, whatever seat you take, jigire, jig is like okay, correct, yeah, all right. So wherever you sit, it will be all right. Whatever seat you choose will be fine. Kaba shugne jigire. I think of it as wherever you sit will be fine. Will be all right. And so now we can start talking about the food. Say sha pak leb ye be. So maybe you're asking about the food that they have. So sha pale ye be. Sha is meat, pale is bread. So the two together, sha pale is it's sort of like a very flat hamburger, I suppose, but extremely flat and breaded. So a breaded beef sort of it's not quite a patty because a patty is thicker. I don't know what you would call it in English. Just breaded meat disc, maybe of some kind. Chapale yube. Do you have chapale? And the answer, again, this polite interjection. La, yes. Ye, la ye. Yes, we do have. Okay, so whoops. Che na. If that is the case, che na. Sha, oops, sha, bak, lip, tang, mok, tok, kyak, ro, na. So, shapale tang, motuk, kyak ro nang, or ker ro nang. So, kyak or ker is to carry or to bring. To bring. Please bring a chapale and a motuk. And then maybe you want to say, maybe you're saying to your friend even, nga, sha, bak, lip, la, ga, bo, ye. I like chapale. So I have a liking for chapale. chapale la gaboye. And then maybe we don't want just food, we want something to drink. So let's ask for some tea. So, seul, cha. This is the U form of tea. Just cha is tea. Suja is honorific tea. Polite U form of tea. Suja. Ngarmo. Suja ngarmo. Cha ngarmo is sweet tea. I think we've talked about this before. Percha is Tibetan tea. Cha ngarmo, sweet tea. And then, okay, shell. Kar. Oops. Ni. Chak. Ro. Na. So suja, ngarmo, sweet tea. Shelkar. So as I mentioned before, when you're making kar is white, but in this case it refers to like white porcelain. So it's referring to a porcelain cup, karyöl. So again, it's being abbreviated. Instead of karyöl, it's becoming honorific. So you add shell, which is the mouth or face honorific. Shekar, a bowl, sorry, a cup, porcelain cup. Ni, two. Kyaronang, so bring, please, do. Kyeronang. And again, this ronang is a polite way of saying please do it. You can say ang, dang, ronang. They're all okay ways to ask, to say please do it. And then the waiter, I suppose, will answer lo, se, los. Usually you just hear it as los. Acknowledging, yes, right away. Certainly, in English you might say. Nge, by me. Sorry. Da, da, lam, sang, kya, gi, yin. Lam sang, right away, immediately. So nge, tanda, lam sang, kya gi re. I will, yes, I will, I will bring some to you right away. So this bringing gets the instrumental case for nga. So it really actually is more like saying now, right away, it will be carried by me. So there's a by me sense for this kind of verb. Nge tanda lamsang kyagiin. I will bring some right away. So let's say you finished your meal and you want to say that you enjoyed it. So we'll use the honorific here. Shel la. You could also say kala for the I form. Shela. Whoops. Tangma. All. Jim. Bo. Tasty, delicious. She. Da. Very. Oops. Do. All of the food was very tasty, or is very tasty in my experience. So this duk is indicating that it's in your experience, your personal experience, recent experience. Shela tangma shimbo shida duk. And then maybe you're still eating and you ask, sil ben yu be. Siben. Siben is very popular with Tibetans. It's chili. So usually like a red hot sauce. Siben yu be. La yu. Yeah, okay, and then we can say, okay, so jak, oops, jakbu, di, oops, to, bo, she, bo, oops, chi, yeah. So just to give you some alternatives here, so jakbu is seasoning. So siben is chili, jakbu is seasoning, jakbu-di, this seasoning, topo, tasty. So shimbo is delicious, topo is tasty. You can think of that as the difference. Shepochik is another, just another way of saying sheda, very. Shepochik, sheda, very. Yeah. And ye, we're using ye here. Okay, this was like in my experience. This ye is more like, this is the waiter talking, right? So he's saying that the seasoning, this seasoning is very tasty. I guess you could interpret it as what we have, but you could also think of it as in my opinion. So so we have a very tasty seasoning, but I think in this case, because he's saying di, it's more like in my opinion. In my opinion. Okay, and then when you're finished and you want to pay the bill, mudzin, you might say to the person at the cash, Changu. Oops. Changu. Ngul is familiar money or silver. Changu. Chak is the honorific for hand, so it's making the money that you hold in your hand honorific. Changu. Adi. Oops. She ro na. So she is the honorific for take. Che is the familiar version, but here we're using honorific. So changu di sheronang, or you could just say ngu di cheronang. Please take this money. And the cashier might say lo se los. And another way to take your leave, we might have mentioned this in a previous video. I'm not sure. I don't remember. Chib jur nang go. Chib jur nang go, meaning have a safe ride on your horse. Chib. Chib is to ride a horse. Chib jur nang go. So I'll roll back to the top and read through the whole thing, just for you to do some listening practice, and then I'll give some more vocabulary after that. So togi duge on kala sarudro sakang shigla droge onre om sakang la dro kare chugi inbe or kare chugi in nga motuk ngagi in o taktare kon desa duge ladu yarpep shugdenja kaba shuga tuke mindu kaba shugne digire shapalep yube la yu chena shapalet tang motuk kyarunang nga shapale la gabuye söja ngarmo shelkar ni kyarunang los nge tanda lamsang gyagiyin shela tangma shimbo shedado siben yube la yu jakpu di tropo shedpochik yu changu di sheronang los chibjonango So if you want to try making some of your own sentences and replacing some of the words here, you can use some new words. So chu is water. We did tukpa already, so tukpa, soup or broth, not broth, like stew or oatmeal, tukpa. And then sha. Sha is meat in general. I think we've talked about that before. Sha or sha. Sha me is vegetarian. Sha ye or sha me. You can make the difference if it has meat or it doesn't have meat. Another thing you might order is je, which is rice. And if you want the honorific form, oops, she je, she je. If you come across things with she in front, it's probably just the honorific form of the food. And then we have kala, which is familiar food. Shel lak, honorific food. Ming Xiong. Ming Xiong is a menu, or a list of food. Mar, butter. Go nga, egg. Wo ma, milk. Sho ko, potato. Ta, salt. Tang tel. I may have mentioned this before, but tang tel is literally cold vegetables. So literally, in English we say salad. Salad, traditionally speaking, has not been terribly popular for Tibetan people. I think in general, what I've understood is, from most people, is that cold vegetables are thought to cause cold illness. So it's better to stay away from uncooked vegetables, which I suppose is a good policy in places where things do go off quickly or can be contaminated with bacteria. So not a bad policy necessarily, but anyway, salad is not a big popular thing among Tibetans, although that's changing in exile, I'm sure. Tangtsil. And then just some things around the restaurant. So jokte, table. Kup, oops. Kyak, kupkyak, chair. Derma is a plate or a dish. In English, plate is only for a flat plate. A dish could have higher sides. That's just something to note if it makes a difference for you. Derma is, I suppose, could be used for either one. Porba. Porba is a cup or a bowl, depending on the context. Porba, depending what it's being used for. Turma, spoon. Sometimes you hear koitse for chopsticks. I think that's a Chinese import. And then, as I mentioned before, the karyul. Karyul is literally porcelain. So porcelain could be a bowl or a cup. Karyul. Many times you'll hear karyul kang. Kang means full, so a cup full or a bowl full. Karyul kang. A full bowl. Please bring me a full bowl of something. Glass. Glass, the only word I've come across is just a phonetic rendition of the English word. So glass. 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 And another word might be useful is, sheldam. Sheldam is a bottle. So use these at your leisure and practice your pronunciation. Enjoy and listen again if you need to.